Bank reconciliations are one of the most important aspects of QuickBooks. This is how we ensure we're in balance. Let's take a few moments, though, to talk about some of the things that can go wrong with this bank reconciliation. First, let's go to banking and down to reconcile. One of the most common errors is actually hitting the wrong account. Now, this is not necessarily true just in doing the reconciliation, but actually when you're writing checks. If I have a payroll account and a working account, it's easy to accidentally write a check in the wrong account. Remember earlier we mentioned put on some color coding to avoid this, but keep that in mind when something seems to be amiss in your reconciliation. Go back and make sure that your checks are in the right area. A second common mistake is that our beginning balance is incorrect. You'll note that QuickBooks will take us directly to some help if your beginning balance is off. However, notice on the bottom I have the ability to locate discrepancies. QuickBooks will produce a report that shows you any transaction that has been changed since your last reconciliation. Now you'll still have to do some legwork and figure out what's gone on, but if necessary, you can actually undo your last reconciliation. This will allow you to re-reconcile and correct all the errors. If these two items are correct, we're ready to go for our reconciliation. Some very common mistakes that we run into is with a check mark accidentally being removed. Now keep in mind, if I'm doing a reconciliation, I'll have a lot of check marks off to the side, and of course we have more than one screen. It is very common to rest my mouse and not realize that I've just removed this check mark. Keep in mind that on the bottom it is always showing me what my checks and payments are and deposits and other credits. However, you can't always go by this. If I did have an instance where I had to do a general journal entry to void a previous transaction, these numbers may be off. So depending on how things hit my books, these may or may not actually match identically with the bank statement that I've received from my financial institution. Sometimes we need to go through the numbers again and then verify that all our check marks are in place. Now keep in mind that there's two sides of this equation. I may have accidentally removed a check mark from a check on my screen. However, it may be that I need to add a check mark. Again, be very cautious about what you're selecting. Sometimes it takes a second pass at the reconciliation to get it correct. Some things I would like you to look for in data entry that come up most commonly when working with bank reconciliations are typographical errors. In essence, I catch a decimal place wrong, or perhaps I'm off by a few pennies. And number two, that my transactions aren't categorized correctly. By this, I mean deposits. Very often our deposits will lump together individual payments. If that grouping comes in incorrectly, it can account for errors. It's very important to ensure that your deposit ticket matches correctly and that your credit card payments are batched correctly. I recommend always using a bank deposit within QuickBooks. In other words, let QuickBooks fill out the bank deposit for you. That way you know the transaction is categorized correctly.